there, as I see it, there are three component parts: the size, shape, treatment, and orientation.
Oh, that's a new one.
No,
Well, it's always been
when I give the project, or when I give the problem to the students in the summer, I just use size and shape and treatment.
Because you've said 50% is size and shape, 50% is treatment. Well,
that really is just to simplify it. In point of fact, it's a third. But for purposes of convenience, I kind of eliminate orientation because it's a hell of a lot easier to deal with two of these variables than it is with three.
Okay.
And if you want to, you could almost say that orientation is ambivalent and or it's multifaceted, and it can be included as either size, shape, or treatment. I'll give you an idea.
But it's another category.
Size and shape. The project uses.
By the way, I put that. I just wanted you to see that first. That was just. I can't believe they thought that this was. What I meant was.
What they think?
They thought that I was, at least what Millard said, was that I was going to have two plans, the same plan for both of them. And what I was getting at was that the reference system, the ordering system, was going to be the same. Like, ceiling heights are going to be constant, door heights are going to be constant, handle heights, countertops, all that stuff, whatever it is. I mean, ordering system. That doesn't mean the plan ordering system and the section ordering system. Now, how can, am I not seeing something, or?
Communications problem.
Well, that's been the whole deal. But anyway.
What this project does, or what the program does in the summer, is use, I'll just review it and you can get it.
Okay.
There are 10 containers, 5 A's, 5 B's. 1A equals 1B in every respect. They're identical, all right? But what that identical means is, you see, that still doesn't eliminate variation. Because as long as it can be perceived, that would mean that one experience, let's do it this way, that this is a human being, it's that size, all right? Two of these containers, these spaces, or places, must be perceived as identical in size and shape. They must be physically identical in size and shape. So if you're coming into this experience in this direction, is what you're going to experience, right?
Okay.
You have the capability to experiencing it the same way in retrospect. You come into this, sequentially it's different, but when you stand back at the end and pirouette and refer in a kind of review situation, recapitulation, you can then identify, aha, that clever devil, I've been here before. I've been in this one twice.
But it's reversed.
But it's reversed. That's what I mean
by potential option.
By orientation, you see. Now, they automatically get into that. I just use it as a resultant variable. It's neither size and shape, nor is it treatment. But if I start to put the treatment in there, those kids will go out of their damn minds because it's tough enough.
Or no, orientation.
Orientation, right, okay. Now, the A equals size and shape as a constant. Treatment equals a variable. And in the B's, size and shape is a variable, and the treatment is a constant.
Is that size or shape?
size, size, and shape. And that simply makes you realize that for size and shape, you cannot use this, this, or that. Instead, it has to be this.
Because in each case,
you can change the size of this, you
shape
cannot change the shape. Now, I'm using planar geometrical elements to refer to solids.
you have to skew it in a way.
Yeah.
You have to give a directional...
There is one square. There are an infinite number of rectangles. There's one circular, there are an infinite number of ellipsoids. And there's one equilateral triangle, there are an infinite number.
Okay, so then a square is a constant constant?
A square is a constant constant, and
a circle is a constant?
Yeah, these are all constant constants.
So those are but these three shapes are the kind of the base
They're the
shape.
Generators, sure.
They're the normative condition.
Well, no, they're the generators.
They're the generators.
Yeah. And you can change its size, you cannot change its shape, and this requires for size and shape. Now, you can get some constants if you look at this as a cylinder.
Yeah.
You can keep the cylinder diameter. You can keep the plan section of the circle as a constant. There. You've changed its size, you've also changed its shape.
In 3 dimensions. But you're saying as a circle you can't. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about that thing that you were telling me on the phone, that diagram? I still couldn't. You said the 4 cans in the corners. Is that another lesson?
All right,
or should we wait for that?
No. That's size and shape. Let's take treatment.
Okay, do the little thing.
The
routine with the 4 cans.
This is in a ceiling.
Wow. It doesn't matter, does it?
No, we'll say it's in a ceiling. We're going to call it lights, and that way it's simple and it doesn't offend anybody. And we'll say it's 10 feet on the side.
Okay.
Now there are 4 can lights.
Okay.
And they're in that position.
They're all identical.
They're all identical.
All right.
This guy right here, which appears to be, here it is. Now, when I go from planar to solid, all I have to do is keep that thing one unit, one discernible, perceptible unit away from a cube, and I'm in business. And that might be that it's this. There. Okay?
That's the cube.
Right. Now, this thing, in point of fact, can generate a number, at least 3 different conditions. I'm looking to go through. I'm going to let this grow. And even though I give 5, Bennett, really what I'm giving is a situation where there's 1, here's 2 that's not shown, there's 3, there's 4 that's not shown, and there's 5.
So you're kind of getting in between.
This is small, medium, and large, or the beginning, the middle, and the end, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, if you want to, these are the extremes, the 2 extremes, and there's the mean.
Okay. So you're still locking it in place to the main lesson.
Right.
Okay.
Now, there's the middle.
Another square.
That's going this direction. Now these are all the same size, all right? Let's call this. We're gonna have size and shape as a constant, and treatment is a variable. So we'll call those A's. There's A1, A3. This can be another A3, and there's A5. Okay. We're going to keep the size of the light, the color of the light, the intensity of the light. The number of the lights, all of that's a constant. So treatment is now going to be a constant, all right? Treatment equals a constant, size, shape equals variation.
Okay.
In the first example, the treatment as a constant is size and shape of the unit. That's the can light.
The can light.
It's physically the same in every respect. The only thing that is changed is this distance right here. And point of fact, the treatment constant is the unit itself, the dimensions of the can, and also this relationship right here.
Edge relationship?
This right here.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's
right.
Identical.
Now, look what happens. If this thing is putting out a light, it does that.
Its influence on the space is less.
You have everything as far as the treatment is concerned is a physical, intellectual control constant, but the end result is very dissimilar. There's a great black area in here where there isn't in there. Okay, that's number one. There is your constant spacing. The next is here. And now it's this.
Okay.
Is a constant.
Which is the same as that, right?
You almost get to a subspace in here. And then the third is a proportional. Let's say this is always a 1:5 ratio. You with me? Nah, I'm a little off.
1 to 5.
Here, let's say that's 1, and if you were to take it...
Yeah, that's 5.
There you are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops.
Okay. Well, yeah. 1, 2, so whatever this is, that's 5 units in between.
Yeah, there's 1, and then it goes bing, 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 whatever.
So that's a variation on what...
That's a constant, too, you see.
Yeah. So even though the distance in between and from the edges is different than it was originally.
Yeah,
but it's proportional.
Right.
So it's a proportional constant.
Right.
Okay.
Now, all of those are legitimate. Each one of these is a way of maintaining an association of treatment as a constant, as a size and a shape varies, and yet, interestingly, there is no such thing as a constant that doesn't have certain variable ramifications. When there's no such thing as a treatment constant, which doesn't have ramifications when the size and the shape are a variable.
Of the container.
Yeah, you can have a constant. The constant is what an individual can perceive. I can count. There are 4 can lights in each one of these containers as they get bigger. There's a human.
They each put out the same amount of light.
They each put out the same amount of light.
They have the same light bulb in them.
Everything. The can unit is the same. There are 4 of them. They put out the same amount of light. They're the same color. They're the same diameter. Intellectually, you can recognize that that's a treatment constant, and yet the treatment constant, because of the variation of the size and the shape, is going to have a varied result. So it's the game of having enough constant information so that you recognize the variation that automatically accrues because of the size and shape variation.
So, in effect,
this kind of variation is easy to understand. We all gravitate toward that. Point is that the treatment constant is just as important, and I gave you a third. That's
orientation.
That's the orientation. Now you start to do this. That's an absolute, all right? If we put the human being back in here like so, you can understand that. You can understand that.
Yeah.
But you'd have a lot of difficulty in trying to understand that, you see, if you were moving through. You could understand this, but that's an absolute. And that reflects the way in your eyes and your body are used as a constant reference. If you want to get the thing for a rotation, you'd have to start like this, 1 unit away. And then you can continue until you stop 1 unit away again. The most difficult of the 3 to understand is the orientation. That's a treatment variable. Let's try another one. In a section.
The heights of these spaces were all constant too, right?
No, they don't have to be.
Not necessarily.
No, that can be another variable.
Because you said size and shape was variable.
Size and shape is variable. It could be this.
So in effect, treatment is really variable. The effective treatment.
The effective treatment. You got it. The effective treatment.
The perception of the treatment.
The effect of the treatment is a variable. The perception of the unit doing the treating
is different.
Should be perceived as a constant. I am perceiving those 4 can lights as a constant. The effects of those 4 can lights is a variable.
But I guess what I'm saying is that when you put it into this bigger space, when you're observing it, it may be hard to convince you that there's the same amount of light coming out of that as there is in that, isn't it?
That's okay, but you can still trace it back to its origins. Let's try another one.
Okay. Yeah, I think I get.
Okay.
Oh, no.
In section.
Oh, you're going to do section 1.
Yeah.
It's a real game, isn't it? I imagine you have a lot of guys trying to break the rules, right?
Oh, yeah.
Before
All right.
they even...
Now, there's a relationship.
Yeah.
Oh,
Above...
It's a guy on a bridge. If you keep this as a constant, there he is in the second one, right?
Oops. Yeah. And that's still constant.
Right.
The distance from the bottom.
The distance from the bottom. Now, this is the same as that. That's a hell of a lot different than if you keep that. Now it's that's a constant.
Would you say that is that taking off of that original generating?
There's That's the A, that's the B. This is all A right here.
That's A. That's A.
This is an A. I mean, there's the B.
Okay.
Okay? So you're aware of the space.
So B is constant, A is variable in that case.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And then you can do it
And then
proportionally.
this is-
You can do it proportionally the same way.
And then this one, A is constant.
Well, no, this is all A right there. These three go together.
A is equal.
Those three to go together, right?
Yeah.
The ramifications that treatment can have, just as a game. Let's start in plan. Okay. What's wrong?
Just neck, you know.
Let's
Move it, it cracks.
I'm going to show you two ways. Now, one of these will be a treatment as a constant. The other will be a treatment as a variable. Right. Let's assume that in plan section there are 4 walls, and the walls are this. And just to give it scale, there's a human being.
Is that a section?
No,
Not necessarily.
It could be a section.
Okay.
Okay. There's the A dimension.
Okay.
Now look what the hell happens. When you finally get down to the end.
Number 5.
Number 5. If that's a constant, here you're emphasizing that there are walls with the corners cut away. When you keep that a constant, all it's doing is modulating a center area. And if you take this as a treatment variable, you might take this point right here as a constant and find that as the treatment varies, okay, there you are. It's going to reduce.
Okay.
Now, look at the tremendous change in spatial suggestion. The size and the shape is the same. Size and shape are identical. But if this are in a black box, then what I'm doing is making the solid equals the void. You've taken it through a transition. There's your dimension. So the void to that point is just exchange.
And you're saying that's a treatment.
That's a treatment, even though the spatial ramifications are phenomenal. If this is day-glow orange, and these
that's
are
surface.
Yeah, this is day-glow orange.
Okay.
No, we'll make that day-glow green, and these are day-glow orange.
Right.
And everything else beyond it is a black abyss. You got to fantasize a little bit. All right, now you're here. There's day-glow green, and there's day-glow orange, and there's a sense of containment. Agreed?
Because it's
You're
black
in,
beyond.
right?
When
Because
you
it's
look
all
in
black beyond.
Yeah.
There's just nothing.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, think of the fabulous difference when you're there. You can see. I mean, this is the bare minimum that modulates the game.
Mm-hmm. Even though it's a physical piece of wall or something, you still see it as a treatment.
Sure. In this, because I've set it up that way.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter what the material is.
No, this size, this guy right here is the normative, it's the datum reference again. Just as these four are the constant. But the ramifications, the fabulous ramifications that accrue out of that.
Okay, now how, maybe the dumb question...
Try another one.
Wait a minute, let me ask a dumb question, okay?
Mm-hmm.
How do you use these constants and variables in treatment and size and shape in a real architectural situation? You know, not in a situation where you're going through 5 spaces where you're playing, you know, that's kind of the...
okay.
Well, or is that too far away?
No. Let's assume
you know, how do you keep it from becoming, you know, like you have a house with 5 rooms, becoming this, you know, sort of freak show of each room being...
It's appropriateness. I'm dealing with a game that is supposed to sharpen an awareness and a perception and a cognizance of what can be done.
Uh-huh. When you put it into reality, then you have to...
What do you get, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Otherwise you get... Let me ask you this. Is the problem with the Portland thing that Graves did, is that a situation where he has too many variables in treatment, for one? All the different things that he does in there?
I don't think it has much in the way of... I don't think it's very legible. The building isn't very legible. I mean, it's the only building that I know of, that I can think of, that is both...
yeah, you said it was ponderous and thin.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm saying when you look at it, at that thin wrapper, it's busy, right?
I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know what...
You don't know what order to...
No,
Is that because he has too many variables? He's got too many balls in the air?
You could look at it that way. I'd prefer to say
he's got concrete, he's got all these things.
There's no common denominator.
Okay.
I think
there's no reference point.
Yeah. Right. You know, Peter's stuff when he was doing all of the fun and games were inordinately complex. I mean, you need a seeing eye dog, a map, a computer, and an interpreter in order to really dissect the thing. And yet there was, because it had been very carefully thought out, there was an inherent sense of one strong generating idea, even though you could never trace it all the way back to its lair. Mm-hmm. Well, you could if you spent the time. But
it was still there.
Yeah, it was there.
And would you say the same goes for Graves' earlier work?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why does somebody like that, who has his amount of intelligence and whatever,
I don't know,
go off on a tangent like that?
I can't tell
you. So
you
see his whole shtick as being very willful.
I think very uncertain. It's a compulsion to be au courant, whatever au courant is, and you're trying to stay ahead of your peers. What can I do for you, my friend? Huh?
Well, you know, I'm just trying to get a feel for how this thing applies to... so you see this whole system could apply to anything, couldn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
It's not like you're imposing some real esoteric construct on something that can't...
That you can say
yeah,
that's
Graves come back and say, well, that's just not my game. I'm doing what I want. And,
that's exactly what he would say.
Yeah, you know.
But when you deprive an individual of enough consistency, when you deprive him of enough in the way of basic reference, then all of the variations in the world are useless, because they become willful self-indulgent exercises rather than traceable back to its origin. And
I guess that gets back to the thing of, you don't need many variables.
You don't need many variables at all.
Well, that's why I
If
say that maybe the Portland building has too many variables, is one
It
dilemma.
has an awful lot going on, and it becomes...
Not enough constants. There's no reference.
There's no reference, that's right.
So there's a lack of constants.
Yeah.
Or the constants
Yeah.
aren't... The constants are overwhelmed by the variables. Variables in treatment.
The variables are not comprehensible in terms of the necessary basic constant elements so that you can recognize what's taking place.
The Christmas tree. Who put... I mean...
That's Mary's.
Okay.
Mary always did it.
You got all this colored ball, it's wonderfully...
Right. I'll tell you what one constant is.
Yeah.
The absence of white. The absence of white lights. And if you put the white light in there, which is a neutral,
Yeah.
you disrupt it.
Okay. Of course, it could be the star on the top.
No, because then it focuses too much attention. The top is the top is the top.
So perhaps Graves' Portland thing has too many things trying to vie for attention at the same
It
time.
sure does that.
Okay. They're all screaming out at you at the same time, and they're fighting against each other rather than working in harmony. Well, that's why I point to the, is that tree as a composition? Or the tree acts as a constant, right?
Right.
Frame.
Mm-hmm.
The variables are the size of each of these globes and the color.
If you didn't have anything but the round ornaments on it,
Right.
the round would be the constant. The constant.
Okay.
Then of course it's important what you don't
Sphere.
have. What? I'm sorry, the sphere. Right, the globe. That would be a constant.
Okay.
If you're going to be a purist, which I think you should, you would eliminate the silver.
Yeah.
There's a silver. Okay?
Okay.
Because that's neutral. The rest can be identified as color. You'd also eliminate
What
the
about the
angles, all the rest of the stuff. If you're really going to do this, you take all of the paper decorations and the socks and everything else off.
Sorry, Mary.
Now, your constant is the globe, the sphere. The variable is its color, and the variable is its size. For the lights, the variable becomes the color, the size, and the light intensity of each of the lights is a constant.
What about the orientation too? Some are pointing down and some are pointing up.
They
Yeah, they're not supposed to do that.
should all point up.
They should all point out.
Yeah,
There should be none that's attached to the shaft.
Sorry. I knew that when I did it.
Well, but the way we see it now is this closer to, this is like Graves in a way.
This is chaos.
It is
Well,
not.
that's what Graves is doing, in effect.
Yeah, if you're really going to have it so that it works, you would eliminate the profusion of orbs. You would eliminate the
I don't like it the way it is.
sphere. And then it would just be a potpourri of everything.
How does Mrs. French hold up to the test with her object that she did?
Okay, the constant there is the actual physical configuration of each of those two units. Yeah, they are identical. They are identical in composition. In shape, they're varied in size. And the next variable is the varied in treatment.
Color.
Except the pattern which is used for the treatment is identical. Large, small, flat. Orientation is a variable.
Even these strips, I think, are the same size.
Mm-hmm.
So the in-between is different?
No.
Or no, they're both the same
Right.
section. So it's the diameter that's different.
Right. The size is different.
Size.
Shape is a constant.
But
Size
I'm
is
saying
different.
that, you know, the treatment is constant in one aspect.
Right.
What would you call that?
The pattern, I'm calling it.
Pattern is...
Pattern, yeah.
The pattern is
The physical
constant,
distribution.
but
The chroma becomes a variable.
Okay.
Here's another one with tremendous spatial ramifications. You know, we'll assume that this is basically a rectilinear solid. Let's put a big column in here, big day glow column. All right.
Okay.
Here's a human.
All right.
Size and shape is a variable. According to my games, treatment is a constant. Even though this thing has 3 dimensions.
Size and shape. Okay, the size and shape of these
of the
frames.
container. Yeah.
You using container, frame,
Frame, container, volume,
space,
Yeah. Now there it is.
mass?
No, because I don't have any outside in this scheme.
Okay.
There's the column.
There's no outside.
Okay. There it is again.
Same column.
Same column. Okay, there you are, pal.
Yeah. Same column.
Now, this guy right here that looked at this thing as just being an accent element originally. And of course, it becomes even more dramatic if you were to consider that maybe this is 1, 2, 3, and 5, you know, is something huge.
Really huge with the
Yeah.
little guy. Yeah. Okay. Do it over. Oh, that one. Yeah.
There it is.
Okay.
Now that's just a focus and something that's...
Right.
But what that tells you, and this is by implication, is if you've gone through 1, maybe there's 4, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If there's a 6th, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Because the order is such that you know that there's not going to be any room around it if it reduces at this given rate.
It'll be something like...
Right.
It's past the max.
So it would be far more dramatic going in this direction than it would be in this direction.
So you get to a point, that's the maximum where you have absolutely no room left on the edge there.
You have to have at least one
minimal unit.
Right, yeah. And I'm saying that in order for this guy to pass,
which is the human passage.
Right. That's where something called humanism comes in, if you recognize what it takes.
Yeah.
This guy has to displace so much. Just think, if you were going through a spatial experience, at that, you'd have no idea that there were only 5. You don't know whether 6, 7, 5, or whatnot. But you've gone through this progression, and you're down at that point. You're very concerned about your future.
Because you don't know.
Because you don't know.
So you could set up in this game. You could set it up. Well, there's another aspect, right? Is how you position each of these elements. Because if you start out with that one, no, wait a minute. What am I talking? It's different sizes.
Those are different sizes,
Yeah.
and the
let's do it this
treatment
way.
is a constant.
And that one's a smaller one, and that one's a So perhaps when you're walking through this thing, you're setting it up so that he thinks he's going to be in trouble by the time he gets to the next one, and then you reverse the...
That's right.
Or maybe you introduce that second one that's identical.
If you go through it with 5.
The expectation
this is an order that can be understood.
Yeah.
That's from small to large, or from minimum to maximum.
Yeah.
This can be understood.
4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
This too can be understood.
1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 5. Yeah, I remember that. But there's one that doesn't work, right?
What? No, those four work. Then you can go 1.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And you
5,
can go
4, 3, 2, 1.
2, 1, 5. And out of all, if you factor 5, I can't remember what 5 is, but 6 factored gives you 720 variations. But if you have 6 of anything, there are 720 different ways you can put them together. Now, of whatever 5 produces, there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are only 6 elements. There are only 6 relationships that can be comprehended or perceived as an order. All the rest of it is disorder.
Yeah, because then, what are you saying? You could get like a 5, 2, 3, 1, 4.
Makes no sense.
That's out of order.
It makes no sense. It's simply not an order it's not a relationship that has any order. All it does is flesh out the possibility.
You know what you bring up? See, this is something that you learn in like 4th grade math. You know, how to factor, or maybe first year algebra or something like that. And apparently, a lot of these fundamental lessons get lost somewhere along the line. Or they don't get
lost, they just don't get applied.
They don't get applied. And that's where you come back to saying if you get too many variables, you have nothing that can be comprehended. If you want to elicit a response from somebody, you have to have there has to be something that is comprehensible. It may be at an intuitive, instinctive, subliminal level, but there can be no communication of any kind without order. So is there any order at all in the Portland building? I mean,
there is an order that was an order that Michael used. There was an order or an organization or a control that he used, but there is none that I can respond to that tells me that it is it's a composition worth my time. You don't have to understand the order in order to respond to it. There's a wonderful sense of order in Alvar Aalto's buildings. And for a long time, I couldn't understand a damn thing about it. It's a discipline. It's an order. It's not fascism. It's not aesthetic fascism. It's not a substitute for wit. It's just that, what does this mean?
Five, 3, 1, 2, 4.
Automatically in this, if you look at the convention, that's the beginning, that's the end. This is minimum, that's max, within that sequence. This is an extreme, that's an extreme. All of those are means. They all share that in common with one another. 2, 3, and 4. And
so you always get that relationship here too, don't you?
Yeah, this is where you see, you build on the complexities. These are straightforward.
Well, what about this one, for instance, where you identify 1, 5, 4, 3, 2?
All right. What you're doing is you're taking the two extremes
and putting them
and juxtaposing them to one another.
I see.
So what you would be doing
is
exactly what you've done here. If we had if we had another one, if we had another one in there.
Okay, so it's not the positioning of these; it's the numerical value you.
4, 3, 2, 1, and the drama comes out of juxtaposing 5 at the end, because this poor bastard knows that if it goes one step more, he's dead. And he gets to the door, and it's almost the Lady and the Tiger. You're going to open the door, and my God, there is another one, and suddenly he goes in, and there's total release. And then, because of this compulsion to understand that man has, he takes it back and he realizes, aha, that's the greatest magnitude. I've been manipulated.
Mm-hmm. So it's the value you're looking at here, 5 and 1.
I'm looking at units that fit into a logical progression that accommodate dynamism or variegation according to this kind of relationship. Each one of these
has 1 and 5.
has the extremities directly juxtaposed, and you can understand one extremity in terms of the other when they are encountered as a tandem.
But I'm saying it's not just what I did there. That was wrong.
What?
Identifying, what I was doing was doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was just identifying the middle ones like you did, but they were out of sequence.
Yeah, all right. No, that
You see
can
what I
only
mean?
be understood in terms of that total sequence. Otherwise, you have a sequence that just is a section of this right here.
Yeah.
I actually use the 5 again because once I've established the macro or total extremity and means, then I know that I've got a subset where within the means I've got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And that can just factor down as far as you want.
Let's see, what is it? It's 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. There are 120 variations. 120 variations, only 6 are discernible or comprehensible. And it doesn't matter how far up you go. You could have 6 in there, and it's still only these. You only have those 6, no matter whether there are 5 units in the sequence, or 6, or 10, or 12, or 30. You still only have the 6. That's the maximum set of interfaces and interplays that can be understood. And when you translate that into some kind of a sketch that communicates responsive ramification, you can understand how it works.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there anything else?
No,
that's the basic.
That's it.
That's the one that you introduce them with.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens after that? They go off. You give them a sketch problem, right, or something.
They
work on that
have,
for 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Like that, don't they?
And then the next one is to apply it to a hypothetical mythical family called the Farkles.
Right. Which
has no real limitations for budget, and the site is such that it fully.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm asking is, after you give them their first lesson, I mean, do you do this all in one lesson?
No,
At the beginning.
It stretches out over 2 weeks. It stretches out over about.
And what do you have them doing while you're
trying to fabricate on the basis of the information that they've received the day before?
in little pieces?
Yeah.
And you go out to Kings Island and all the rest of that.
Didn't last year, but have in the past. A roller coaster ride is a good example of.
Did you try to talk to Wishney about this at all, or
It didn't work.
he didn't? Respond?
Well, it's not something that you can plug into on a percentage basis. It's either all or nothing.
And you didn't feel he would accept this at all?
I can't make a believer out of the guy when I can't ask him to carry the ball when I'm only going to be around 1 out of 3 days. It's just unfair to him. It's unfair to anybody.
Yeah, I see.
And this is a discipline that you have to follow, and part of the message is to establish the rigor, which is rejected very frequently because everybody wants to be different. Everybody wants to have the freedom to select and structure according to all of these wonderful prerogatives that exist. Order is generally suspect as being a retardant to full expression, rather than its most necessary ally.
I haven't read one thing in Corbu that goes against that, or any of these other people. But well, I guess the only other thing I guess I need some further explanation on is the nature of the constant once again. And how do you determine, I mean, like, let's take my little ones that I identified here, just as a example. You know, and I only put it into the constant and variable thing. I didn't want to take it any farther than that because, you know, for lack of confusion, but I would be considered a constant, right?
Yeah.
As the architect.
Right.
The client
Is a constant. Right. The automobile is a constant. The detailing would be a constant.
The ordering system would be a constant.
If you choose to use the spine and the attachments or dependencies, primary, secondary, yeah, that could be a constant.
Between both houses.
Right.
Which
I question whether I keep that one up for grabs a little bit.
you mean the spine thing?
There are certain imperatives or non-negotiable constant. The architect is a constant. The client is a constant. You may select that the detailing will be a constant. You can select the treatment or materials as a constant. The automobile is a constant. Now, the ordering system, that can be a variable.
That can be a variable.
That can be a variable, you bet. The site is a variable.
Ordering
the size is a variable.
You see,
the shape is a variable. The program is going to be a variable.
Right. The ordering system, are you saying ordering system as spine as part of an order?
Right.
You're looking at that
as the ordering element.
Maybe I should call this a reference system.
You could do that. No.
Well, I'm talking about the references of.
You can say that you have a spine. Yeah, all right. You can say the spine. The organization of a lineal spinal tie that is serving to not just to allow accessibility, but to organize the relationship. That can be a constant.
Okay. Well, in the one in House 2, I do have the spine. There's no doubt about the spine and the attachments, whatever those A, B, C.
Right.
Okay. Now, in House 1, the urban house, there is potential for a spine once again, but it's in a different. This is the street. Use your pen.
Okay.
There's a street, the spine, that's the house next door, and, whatever the space is. I mean, there is that potential. I'm wondering if I ought to make that.
I keep that one
open until I figure out what I want to do.
Yeah. Then you can go back in and plug it in as either.
Because I'm not sure that's what I want to do.
No, I wouldn't do that. That would be the only flaw that I see, and that would be the ordering system. I would keep that not as a constant.
And, well, this spine might end up being, if I do choose to the urban spine, it's instead of being, well, in this case, the spine is basically two-dimensional, or it's on one.
Don't even worry about that.
Don't even worry about that, because I mean, this thing could be these are the you know, it's multi-layered
Right.
spine with stairs.
No, I'd say that's premature at this point. That's going to
It's
contribute.
okay. Don't set that up as a limitation.
No.
It may end up happening.
It may, right, but give yourself the benefit of the doubt at the moment.
Yeah, because I'm not far along enough on that. But it's going to have to be decided soon. You realize 5 weeks from now, I've got to be an 8th scale.
I'm sorry, we can do that. Someday I'm going to write a book. This is too
You
good.
ought to.
This is too good an exercise to allow it to lie dormant.
I know. Well, it ought to be...
Let's take one of these and turn it into a section.
Okay.
There's a human now. We'll keep him at a different scale.
All right.
All right.
Is that another human up there?
No.
No.
There. That might be, this is a circle cut out. All right, here's your space.
Yeah.
Now, you showed a piano. There's the piano right there.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay. Yeah.
That might be a cutout in the ceiling for a soffit. And what it may do in a large space is signify where the center is.
Okay.
This may be a cutout in a smaller space, which has the capability, it still establishes,
Yeah.
but it suggests that you might have seating
Yeah.
all the way around it. Right?
Yeah.
Just giving you
An
one
architectural,
a direct, literal application for what it might do. And the opposite, of course, would be that it would always be that. It would be the constant.
Okay.
And automatically, as a resultant variable, is that distance is always going to be different, and just as that's different.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to think about what are the cues that I can use. Treat constant. This is a constant. One of the constants in here is a treatment of white paint.
Yeah.
And that's on everything.
Uh-huh.
On everything. The floors, the hardware, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's not the same. It's not the same on that plane right there as it is on the circular one up above. It's white, but notice how yellowish it is because of the difference in light.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Now the chroma is a constant. The floor looks like the wall because of the striation, the pattern in it. It's a result of the material it's used. And this is the same as that, even though a constant now is that everything underfoot is strives according to the segment of which it's executed.
Well, you're identifying subtleties.
Yeah. And there's another subtlety there. That's all white, and it continues. But it's been given another chromatic character because of the use factor, and that has a far more dynamic relationship. That's cavity. That fireplace is far more dynamic with a white painted surface where you can see the result of the fire than would be the case if it were black.
Because it would always be black.
Because it would always be black.
It would always be...
Would also be so strong in the space it would overwhelm